Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Anthony's Journey. So today we're going to be talking about what do you do once you've graduated. So, in our last episode, we managed to get our master's degree, we managed to secure a position at EY, and we also finally managed to actually get our driver's license after the fourth attempt. So there's a lot that we unpacked in my last episode, and we did it, guys. We finally got the job, we finally graduated, we were effectively now on to our next stage of life, which was the career. So, the first thing I was thinking about is that, hey, I still got a good 9 months before I start my next position. So what do I do now? So luckily, I did get a call from my boss from Relevant Sports. She said, hey, there's a position at our sister company, Ascendant Sports, which does exactly what Relevant Sports does, which is basically work with soccer leagues, and we host games at all the different stadiums. And, of course, there's ticket sales and all that fun stuff. So I was really excited to actually go meet my old friends, my old coworkers, and yeah. So I started my job there effective in January of 2016, and yeah, I had a good 9 months, where I could actually work and earn some money. So it was a great time, and definitely a great use of my time versus just being at home. So as I progressed through my my work, I was thinking about like, hey, I'm doing my expense reports. We're kind of grinding away, we're making money, but there was something else that was kind of missing, which it kind of dawned on me that, hey, my friend actually told me that something I could be doing in my interim period before I started at EY was getting my CPA, which means Certified Public Accounting license. So as I was working and grinding away at my job, I was just like, hey, like I'm doing expense reports, I'm doing all this fun stuff. I'm earning some funds here and there, which is great. But at the same time, I did want to prep myself as much as I can for my career. So, once you actually finish college, guys, or you finish your studies, the learning never stops. There's always something new to learn. There's always a way to grow yourself, to make yourself an even better version of yourself. So definitely grinding away and making yourself, the next phase of yourself is important. So I would say, definitely keep grinding and keep up the good work. So, going back to this, I said, okay, so in order to actually do my CPA, I actually have to start, applying for the CPA exam. So, the first thing that I actually did was I asked EY if they would be willing to, get me the CPA materials, which they gracefully did. They actually got me the Becker program, which the Becker program was really great. It got me all the materials that I needed, such as like the textbooks, the courses. It was all great. So, it was a hefty price of like I think $800-900, but EY paid for it luckily. So I was able to get all my course materials paid for, and yeah. So the first exam that I actually started studying for was the FAR exam, which is the financial portion of the exam. So when I first started studying, it kind of felt weird because it was my first time actually studying on my own, and it was something that I was afraid. Not that I was afraid of studying on my own, but it just felt like like school's already really over now. There's no more classmates. There's no more people who I can just shoot the breeze with. It was definitely a heartbreaking time for me. But luckily, my controller, she also said, hey, I'm actually also thinking about doing my CPA exam as well, because I do want to add that credential to my own position. So we actually started to create study groups right after work. So we actually we got our textbooks, we started going over the materials, we started quizzing each other on the questions. So it was a very wholesome experience for me, and it was like the start of the next phase of my life, where I was no longer a college student, and I was actually moving on to being a working adult, which was definitely a big shift for me overall. Like I did miss being a student, and it was definitely a change of pace for me, like a big change of pace for me. Hello everyone, my name is Anthony, and I'm the host of TheLostSanctuary. I hope you've been enjoying our content so far, and if you have, please feel free to like and subscribe. Also, we have our website up here, and we also have some socials down here, and as always, leave your comments down below. So as we started to progress through the questions, I was actually starting to feel like, oh, this isn't too bad. Like I a lot of people who took the CPA exam previously were telling me that the material is usually pretty difficult. There's a lot of things to memorize, even more than when you're in school. So I was actually pretty afraid of, tackling the CPA exam. It was definitely something that it was nerve wracking, and I realized that. But as I started to kind of like, get the questions, I started to get more, more proficient in the practice exams. I felt like, okay, this might be something I can tackle and, get over with. So in order to actually become a CPA, just to give everyone the idea of how, how CPAs work, is that you have to have 120 credits to sit for the exam, 150 credits to actually, become a licensed CPA. And some of those credits will have to involve some accounting courses, of course. And then finally, you have to pass 4 exams. And of course, I actually forgot one more credential, which is that you also need to have worked at least 1 year under a licensed CPA and then have them sign off on it. So these are all the credentials to become a CPA. So I was going through the exam phase effectively because I had, enough credits to, of course, sit for the exam. Now that I had 150 credits for my master's degree. And, as I was taking my first exam, which was the FAR exam, I was pretty nervous. The testing facility was actually pretty, it was pretty strange to say the least. Like, effectively, the testing exam, the way it is that you actually go into a room, and they say, okay, now you sit in this cubicle. It's effectively like an office cubicle, and then you have wall here, headphones, and essentially you can't really see anything outside of that. And they have like camera sometimes, and it was definitely like effectively like, hey, we want to make sure you're not cheating, make sure that you're not, which I understood. It was of course an exam to determine whether your material. So it was definitely a weird feeling when I first took my first exam. So I went through the exam props. I got through all the multiple choice questions, and then there were some short answer questions as well. And I got through the entire exam, and at first I was like, hopefully I get at least the 75, because 75 is effectively the score you need, the minimum score you need, and then boom, you're all set. So I went through the exam, and I said, okay, it's over now, I can get out of here. And I waited, I think it was you used to have to wait like a month roughly to actually get your results. I think it's much faster now, but I had to wait like a month to get my results. And I remember waking up one morning, and I checked my score, and I was like, wow, I got a 93. I was like, whoa, this is great. Like, I was over the moon. I was like, whoa, I got a really nice score. And I even called my mom, I called my coworkers, and I was like, hey guys, I passed the first exam. And they were like, Anthony, we knew you could do it, man. You're always crushing it. And I said, yeah, I couldn't do it without you guys. You guys are the ones who pushed me and get me to my next vertical. So I appreciate that a bunch. So I was like, okay, so let me tackle the next one. So yeah, the next one was like a business one, where it was like ethics and business, and that one actually wasn't it was called BEC, just to let everyone know. And then that one wasn't too bad. That one I actually I studied like a month for it roughly, and it was the same routine. I was with my controller, we were studying, I was working through the questions with her, and I was kind of getting the groove of it. I was like, okay, so CPA exam is just effectively another exam outside of school, where it's not something out of the ordinary to tackle, but it is something that does take a lot of study, a lot of dedication to ensure that you actually get to it correctly. So I managed to also pass the BEC exam as well. So I was already 2 exams down, 2 to go. But sadly, just to let everyone know, this was also the end of my Ascendant sports journey. I grinded away, I did all my duties, and essentially it was now time. It was already September now, and I had to say goodbye to everyone. It was a bittersweet feeling, because I really enjoyed working at Ascendant Sports. The vibe there was great. The people there were great. It was so, it was very sad for me to leave, but I knew that I had to continue on the path to the next place that I needed to be effectively. So, I said goodbye to my coworkers. I even stayed a little later just to ensure that all my work was done that day. And the next day was EY. So I started EY, I went through the orientation, and it definitely was a different vibe overall. Like, even when I was at Citibank previously, EY felt even more corporate than that. And not in a bad way, but it just seemed like, it just felt like there was like these big cubicles, which I didn't have at Citibank, and effectively it felt very businessy, which wasn't a bad thing. As I said, it was just a different experience overall. So yeah, when I started at EY, I thought I was gonna jump right into work, but luckily, I didn't have to. I actually got to have 2 or 3 months of kind of like effectively not working. So usually we call this downtime at EY, where effectively you're not working, but you're still getting paid, luckily, of course. But effectively what they suggest during that downtime is that you work on your CPA studies, or if you're called on for a small project, you do that too. So essentially I got lucky and I didn't really have to work or anything. So what I dedicated my time to was focusing on my next exam, my next CPA exam, which effectively was taxation. And so taxation was my next one. And it was, it's funny, when I was taking the taxation one, I actually got my memories of when I took all those tax courses in my master's degree, and I was like, wow, so it doesn't feel too bad. Like I actually enjoyed the tax portion of the CPA exam as well. It wasn't too bad. It was working through the question, but this time I was on my own. I didn't really have anyone else, so I did sometimes, like between us, I did fall asleep sometimes because there's a lot of material, a lot of things to read to. A lot of things to just read through very carefully, make sure that you're analyzing everything correctly. And so after a month and a half, 2 months of just doing that, because this one had a lot more material, I sat down, I took the exam, and guys, we did it. We finished the third exam. So effectively you're already 75% of the way there. And I effectively did it within effectively all of 2016. And the thing about the CPA exam is that they do give you time. Once you pass your first exam, they give you an extra 18 months. Well, at that time it was 18 months, if I remember correctly, to pass all 4. So effectively, I passed the first one, passed the second one, passed the third one. But then the fourth one, which was audit, I actually had to hold off on doing it because I actually, ended up getting my first assignment. So, so I guess I'll leave it off here for now until we talk about my first assignment at EY. So that would conclude Anthony's Journey, episode 9. I want to thank you all for coming, and I hope you all have a blessed day. Adios. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing an amazing job, and I'm wishing everyone out there all the best. All right, until next time, adios.